Did you know Christianity directly affects your life? Yes, you. Did you know that the idea of leaders serving their people is a Christian value? We think of democracy as a Greek or Roman invention, and it was. But the difference is the leaders of those ancient civilizations were treated like royalty. They were kings. They didn't serve the people served them. It wasn't until Jesus Christ said in Mark chapter 10, verse 43, "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant, for even the Son of Man did not come to be served but to serve." So whether you are religious or not, this is one of many ways Christianity has shaped your life for the better. Our politicians serve us, the people. Well, at least they're supposed to.
Yeah, it's supposed to.
I don't know about this Dishy Rishi guy.
In theory.
But yeah, we normally start with our question of the day. We're not going to. We're going to go straight into this book. What's the book? Pause this video right now. Go and read What's So Great About Christianity by
Dinesh D'Souza. And when you read it, you can join us for the discussion.
Or you can watch this video because we're going to tell you all about it. My name's Elijah.
I'm Joseph, and welcome to the Aisha Library.
I blundered it again. Just a little bit, just a fraction.
Yes.
But yeah, there was so much interesting things. People claim to not be religious and they believe that they're not. Or they're not, so to speak. But Christianity...
They don't practice.
Christianity is a very, very important religion for these reasons that we're going to tell you about.
I think being religious and practicing religion are probably two different things, to be fair. Or it's a distinction.
I think we all have faith.
Yeah, there you go.
Which what's his name?
Dinesh D'Souza.
Dinesh proved we all have faith. And we're going to tell you how. But yes, your turn.
Yeah. Why Christianity is exposed. It's a well-accepted fact that atheists rely on what many of them would call logic and critical reasoning. Interestingly, atheism is actually a religion. It requires belief, it requires faith of some sort, and it requires religion to actually exist. Because it's atheism. As a result of this, they can be devastatingly proficient at dismantling positions, like bringing a violin to a gunfight. I heard one guy say, he said it felt like bringing a violin to a gunfight because the atheist was dismantling all his, he just didn't know what to do. Dinesh D'Souza says that while some pastors attempt to defend their beliefs in the face of such assaults, they typically fare poorly, as they are used to addressing large congregations of those who share their beliefs, but are less well equipped at repelling the hipfire of a skilled attacker. So I've been in situations like these where you're on, maybe been on Reddit, maybe been on Facebook or whatever, and an atheist is just coming blow after blow like a sledgehammer from Thor. But we have to take into account that atheism needs God to exist. Their entire position is anti-theism. So if you're ever getting annihilated by an atheist, just remember they've trained their whole life for this. But that's not the only reason that Christianity is exposed. It's also because it's not protected by its followers. Like here in England, we supposedly live in a Christian country. Anthem's God Save the King, we live in a Christian country. But, there were girls walking around the street half naked. We have LGBT for Jesus groups and things like that. So it is really weird how Christianity is exposed because the followers of Christianity don't protect it. And it's like the places where it's supposed to be strongest or where it's actually weakest. So in the West of the world, in Christian countries, the Pledge of Allegiance in America is one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. And they've got, LGBT for Jesus groups everywhere. So it's super crazy how the religion gets exposed and it gets diluted. And it's something called theological liberalism, which I have a load of points about later on. I'll get onto that. But it's a whole thing.
There's a beautiful quote in this book.
What?
Good people will do good things and bad people will do bad things. But for good people to do bad things, that takes religion. And it's bullshit though. So basically people have this argument, religion causes so much deaths and he broke it down in this book. And I told you about this months ago anyway.
Yeah.
But he broke it down in this book. He said that is a misconception. He said in the last 100 years, or should I say probably 120 years, last 120 years, much more people have been killed by atheism. So we have Stalin in Russia, who's killed 20 million people. We've got Mao from China, who killed 70 million people. And Hitler killed around 10 million people. Yeah. So that's 100 million deaths, 100 million murders done at the hands of atheism. And he calculated that he obviously has to estimate that all the people who've been killed in any form of religious conflict in the last 3,000 years hasn't amounted to more than a couple 100,000.
Yeah,
max.
no, 100%.
That's what he said, max.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So This is what atheism's done in the last 120 years.
Literally, they
compared to 3,000 years.
Yeah, literally, they said. I mean, a lot of that is going to be down to the fact that there's better weapons around more recent times. Having said that, I was doing some reading about the Crusades. I'm not even sure how accurate this is, but it said 1 million people was killed in the Crusades. That's all of them.
No,
you know what I mean?
He said something like, if you were to account for the population increase, you could account that to be 1 million. But he said there's definitely not that high. So he was just trying to give you some form of comparison. But in the Crusades, it's definitely not.
There was a lot.
But this is the thing: you can say that it's equipment or whatnot. Well, I don't know enough about Mao China, but I know that was not technical advancements and whatnot.
I mean, Stalin probably came from China. I think.
They were killing people old-fashioned style sort of thing.
Pascal's wager. This is a philosophical argument that was reasoned by a French mathematician and philosopher called Blaise Pascal in the 17th century. The wager essentially attempts to outline the incentive of striving to believe in God by highlighting the finite losses of being wrong in such a position. So essentially, let's say you wager on whether God is or God is not. That's the wager, right? And your choice is simulated by a coin flip. So you wager on tails that God is not. Then you flip the coin. If it indeed lands tails up, you get to live out your life and one day die and fall into never-ending, unfeeling oblivion. Your gains for choosing correctly are capped. If you wager that God is not and you are wrong, however, if the coin lands heads up, then your losses are quite literally infinite, as depicted in Abrahamic religions with God's promise of eternal torment in hell. If I wager that God is, however, and I choose correctly, my possible gains become infinite, and my possible losses become the same as yours. Essentially, when you choose to wager that God is not, you pick the losing side. You eliminate the possibility that you could go to heaven even if it did exist. And if you're right and there is no God and no heaven, you can't even gloat about it, because by the time you find out, you found out. Never forget, God-fearing is a compliment. There's a reason sacred is an anagram of scared. Pick the winning side. Don't be stupid. I think that's super interesting. Pascal's wager, it's like, it kind of, I had to do some external research about it as well, because I wasn't even, I've heard of it before.
I never heard of it. I think it's just interesting regardless. And it's interesting that you have nothing to gain from...
Nothing to gain
from atheism. You've got nothing
in this life when you can't even prove it.
To gain by not believing in God.
You pick the losing side.
So people say, reason and logic, but logically it makes more sense.
There you go.
To believe in God.
There you go.
The author makes an interesting point between the futility of atheism. He said, listen to these two beliefs. One, you are the descendant of a tiny primordial plasm cell washed up on an empty beach 3.5 billion years ago. You are the product of blind chance. You exist on a tiny, insignificant planet on an empty corner in a meaningless universe. You have no essence beyond your body, and one day you will cease to exist entirely. In short, you came from nothing and you will return to nothing. Or you are a special, unique being made in the image of God with the capacity to think and feel. You are different. You are different to animals, not only in degree, but in kind. You are not only unique, but you are unique in your own kind. Your Creator loves you so much that He has a perfect plan for your life. Not only that, He gave up His Son so that you might live for eternity alongside Him. Now you split these two beliefs amongst two tribes. Which is most likely to thrive? That's what he said. I thought it was an interesting and clever point, because it's gotten to a point where it doesn't matter if God is real or not.
Yeah.
His argument is that it makes logical sense to believe, and then you will benefit from it.
Yeah.
Think about it. If all 8 billion people on the planet were either devout Christians or all 8 billion people atheists, which world would be a better place?
That is a good question. You're talking about devout Christians as in, like, probably on their thing, fundamentalists.
So, as I said, it doesn't even matter if God's real. It matters that you believe, it matters that you live your life in a way that He is, because it benefits you.
100%.
It benefits you.
We see what humans do. With the correct motivation, humans have the capacity for great good. But without motivation, we also have an equal capacity for great foolishness. That might even be the quote of the day. And in fact, without higher power, without the motivation, without the why, what do we spend our time with? Literally. Or even worse.
Or...
You had to take it there. He had to go too far. Question: how much of what we believe is our choice? Let me give you an example. If I told you, Elijah, I've got a gun behind my back and I'm going to shoot you in 90 seconds, we know that you don't believe me, but could you choose to believe me if you wanted to?
No.
You couldn't.
You can't choose.
You can't choose to believe anything.
But if you can't choose to believe, who's controlling your beliefs?
Exactly. Who is making you choose? Who does choose for you?
That's the question. So is it our fault if we don't believe in God?
I personally think you can choose to believe in God. I think you can.
No. So you can choose to believe that there's a gun behind the back.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, you could choose to believe that.
Can you?
You can choose to believe it. Yeah.
So you can.
I think everybody can. You can choose to believe it.
But even though you know I haven't got... even though you know... even though you know I haven't got anything here...
Okay,
you're choosing to believe
what I'm saying is it's different. So, for example, with God, you can choose to believe in God because you don't know. I know you ain't got a gun behind your back. You see what I'm saying?
You don't.
Whereas
know.
I don't. Yeah, that's true. But to be fair, yeah, you don't know that God exists or doesn't.
But if you can't completely control your choice of your belief system, you can't choose. You can't completely control it, as you said. You can't.
So if it's 100% or 0%,
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying if you can't completely control what you believe, then you can't be held accountable.
In that circumstance, I can't be held accountable for. To be fair, and a lot of it is location. You know, where you're born, where you're raised, where you're grown up, what your parents believed, for example. So a lot of it is luck anyways, because you was just lucky to be born in this part of the world rather than that part of the world. Like, if you're the son of a psychologist, you might grow up laughing at Christians, you know, your whole life. And then that is who you are on a base level. Or it's part of your brain. I personally think you can choose, but you just need the right motivation. You need someone to say the right words in the right manner, and your mind needs to be open at the right time. It's pretty much all it takes. This is why you have converts. You know, people go to Mosque Maram and listen to Minister Farrakhan, and it just speaks to them on a different level, and they convert. So you can choose to believe. You just need.
You can believe.
You need the right. All it takes is one.
So you can believe that I've met an alien.
Oh well, that's not even that hard to believe. To be fair. That's really not even that hard to. Yeah, that's a good one to do. Yeah, no, that's not even that hard to believe. I personally think. What do you guys think? I think you can choose what you believe.
I don't think so. Did you know Russia is one of the most secular countries in the world? And guess what? Their birth rate is so low that they are losing 700,000 people a year. Japan is another massive secular country. They have 230 million people, and their population is thought to get as low as 100 million in a decade. They're losing people. Birth rates among religious people are twice as high as in secular people. Is that by a divine intervention, or is that natural selection? The world will become more religious either way, because religious people are having children.
Either way.
Part of it is, to religious people, children are thought to be a gift from God, which is actually quite interesting, you know.
It's quite interesting.
You know.
So it's like not believing in God is detrimental to our own survival as a species. As the numbers show, the numbers indicate this.
That is crazy.
It's not even an idea anymore. It's proof.
So is that divine intervention?
I think that is a good example of divine intervention. It'd be super interesting if, the Lord works in mysterious ways.
Yeah,
People think divine intervention means the heavens part and someone throws a lightning bolt down, and maybe it does mean that. But I also think it means the Lord works in mysterious ways. He, works in ways that you would never think.
Exactly.
And it's like, if you're not having children for God, who are you having them for? You know, when you're,
that's
if you're
why
an
people
atheist,
don't have
exactly. If you're an atheist,
why would I do that?
exactly. I should spend my time, doing what I want because I only have one life.
It's selfish,
It's selfish.
So yeah,
it's selfish. At the end of the day, we win. we shall win. A theologian called Helmut Richard Niebuhr once said, "A God without wrath brings men without sin into a kingdom without judgment through the ministry of Christ without cross." In today's world, it's increasingly commonplace to see theological liberalism, religious people who seek to adapt or modify the pure fundamentalist forms of their beliefs in order to be more compatible with the sensibilities of the Western world. As Dinesh D'Souza puts it so eloquently, rather than being the church's missionaries to the world, they are the world's missionaries to the church, which I thought was a really good quote because it really conceptualizes what a lot of people are in their faith. Rather than bringing the church's word to the people, they're bringing the people's word to the church and say, this is what's going to work. We're going to, no, you can't do this, women have to... So it's really interesting. But American philosopher Richard Rorty once claimed in an interview that he was delighted that Christianity was being modified to accommodate the Western world. He went on to say that maybe this would result in a Christianity so wishy-washy that nobody will be interested in being Christian anymore. He's taking the piss out of them, but he's not actually wrong, because the more you dilute something and dilute it and dilute it and dilute it, is the less people want it. You know what I mean? Because if you're drinking Ribena, you drink it because you want something sweet. You dilute it more, it's not sweet anymore, it's not sweet, it's less sweet. You're drinking water at this point, flavoured water. So it is really interesting that the more you try and change something, and it's like you try and modify it for the modern world, and it's like these things are incompatible. One is going to kill the other sooner or later, which is why you go to Kuwait, you go to Qatar. It's 100% or 0%, as I literally just said.
It's got to be.
It's got to be. You can't have, gays for Prophet Muhammad, like T-shirt in Kuwait. You can't have it. You can't have any of it. Go over there for that.
Kill you.
They will literally kill you. They'll stone you. They'll stone you. It's not tolerated because it's not sufficiently diluted in those areas. But look, there are Muslim countries where they're trying to be a little bit more, chill out a little bit, but it's nothing like over here.
Which country?
It's like Turkey, for example. But they even said Turkey's not even going the way of Turkey anymore. Remember when he said that?
Sorry?
He said Turkey's not even going the way of Turkey anymore.
Yeah,
they're gonna have the whole reform.
Yeah, Turkey is. They fly the flag. They fly the flag, but but I don't know how much. I've been Turkey, and I don't know. But then again, if I've gone to tourist places, so I don't know. But yeah,
I think the only one is Dubai, and that's because Dubai is such a central.
Dubai isn't
exactly
no one.
Exactly,
that's a Muslim territory.
No, but, Dubai. Listen, they said Dubai can get you. Listen, you can get anything in Dubai.
Yeah, but listen, just because. Okay, so I wouldn't say that just because they sell pork or whatever, that means that's going against their religion. They're not eating it.
Yeah,
I know.
No,
so,
I know 100%.
And certain things that are banned or whatever, if they're not consuming it as Muslims, then they're following their code.
Well, here's an interesting point, right? Because I don't know if it still is, but Saudi Arabia used to be a dry country, right? So you can't buy alcohol there. But in Qatar, when the World Cup was in Qatar just 2 years ago, basically the Qatari government put out a statement saying, we know you lot like a little jinky winky here and there. Don't try that coming around here. This is Qatar. This is Qatar. They said, we know you like to go through the streets wearing your little rainbow tops or whatever. Do not try that here. This is Qatar. And loads of people were saying, it's part of drinking culture, it's part of football, yada, yada, yada. What I learned is, if you pay like the extra, you can actually get alcohol like served to you in like your room or your private VIP, whatever. So it does exist.
You don't want it there. It's not the alcohol you want. It's the vibe.
Exactly. You want to see moving the titties out. You want to see all of that. You can't see any of it in Qatar, and it's because the two things they can't mix. You can't have half and half. I heard a great quote one day. You can't walk with the Lord on Sunday and walk with the devil on Monday.
Why not?
He said, I do it every
week. The importance of the family. Did you know? If not for Christianity, we would all be taking part in homosexual activities, especially you.
Especially you.
Did you know that the ancient Romans and Greeks believed that a woman was not a life partner and a friend? She was solely for recreation. And that true love was with a man and a boy. Men who fell in love with women were considered to be a mild form of insanity. It was Christians who started to see a relationship between a man and a woman with the same purity as the relationship between Christ and the church. And this is why we have marriage, or at least this is why we have the type of marriage we have today. Christianity brought about consent. This was not because of gender equality. This is because Christians believed that each of us has a partner made for us by God. Romantic activities were seen as God guiding the soul to find a lifelong companion. And Christians emphasized that free choice should be binding. Because you consented without coercion, you should live up to your vows, which is a lifelong commitment, marriage. So, this is how Christianity influences your life today. Because if not for Christianity, we think we have been civilized by Romans and Greeks. That's what we all believe. We don't believe it's religion, we believe it's the Romans. But that's what they used to do. I can't remember what it's called. It's a relationship between a man and a boy. But there's actual word. It's not paedophilia. It's another word for it, specifically. I didn't want to write it down. But yeah, that's what they were doing. And that's what we would be doing in this day and age. If not for Christianity. It's as simple as that.
Oh, it's crazy to think about as well. So thank God for Christianity, right? Can science explain why so many humans believe in God? Mere wishful thinking, as D'Souza writes, would be incompatible with human evolution. Stephen Pinker is a Canadian cognitive psychologist who claims that a freezing person finds no comfort in believing that he is warm, and a person face to face with a lion is not put at ease by the conviction that he is a rabbit. Such wishful thinking would have become evolutionary extinct once we froze or were eaten. So can science explain the success of religion? This is the point I was talking about in the book. Why is religion so successful? Is it just because it's passed down, or...
Well, those okay, so that in and of itself doesn't really correlate, because obviously...
No, it doesn't, but it's just to get the cogs turning.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. So, you know, I mean, from one of my first points when he said something along the lines of, you know, either you believe and it benefits you, or you don't believe. So you can believe you're a cell that was washed up on the planet 3 billion years ago and blah, 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 life is meaningless.
Yeah.
Or you can believe that you have a purpose and there's a higher power and you need to do good for your fellow people. And that, I assume, is the best argument one could make for religion serving people.
Yes, and it's also because, well, what does good and bad mean if not from God? Well, who told us that stealing's bad? You know, stealing.
But
you can give me 1,000 situations where stealing is right. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So who tells you
your
that
children?
stealing's...
Your children ain't got no food, and you ain't got no money.
Grandmother needs medicine. You can't afford it.
Should I go and see it? Of course you should.
Of course you should. So there's 1,000 situations where everything we think is wrong is right, but who tells us what is wrong and what is right? There's no law written about it. Why can't I steal your phone? Why not? Yeah. If I'm bigger than you, if I've got a weapon, I've got a gun behind my back, surely I should be able to take it. Right of conquest.
Exactly.
Who tells us that is wrong?
And boot.
Yeah, no, legit. And boot, 100%.
It's my turn, isn't it?
Yeah.
This is all did you knows. Did you know? When there are famines or human crises, we rush to help. Why? Because of Christian values. You know, those people, we say, you know, those people are humans too. They deserve a chance to be happy. If we're more fortunate than them, then we should help and be charitable, because we can. The ancient Greeks and Romans did not believe this. They thought of it as, that famine's a problem, but it's not our problem. Goodbye. The Greek philosopher Aristotle, who was not a Christian, but his values was closest to the Christian values, he said, we as the wealthy should help the needy to show our superiority. That was his way of convincing his polytheistic people to be charitable. But even this is different to the teachings of Christianity. Because we do not help Haiti or Palestine because we believe we are superior people than them. For does the Bible not say, beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have no reward from your Father who is in heaven. Thus when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do, in the synagogues and the streets, that they may be praised by others. That was Matthew chapter 6, verses 1 to 4.
Listen, there's some genuine juggernaut lines in the Bible, you know. I was doing some reading about the Bible, and I was like...
That's blasphemous, just to say that.
No, it's like... This is a great read. It's a great read, but...
Interesting.
I've got some...
It's a page turner. What happened to Jesus?
I've got some, literally find out next week. I've got some quotes from the Bible that I've literally even put in here where I literally said, because I've never read the Bible cover to cover. I've read parts of it. I've never sat down and read it cover to cover, but that's another good one, to be fair. No, I put that part already.
But yeah, I just wanted to highlight the fact that, you know, things that you believe them because of Christian values, and you don't even know.
Like, literally, I just remember what I was trying to say, the part that you put about charity, like Good Samaritan. Where do we get the term Good Samaritan from? That's a parable, right? I forgot what book it's from, but that's a parable from the Bible. So even the way we speak and the language that we use, like Christianity has a huge impact. Michelangelo, Renaissance era, all of that art, all comes from Christianity. The arrogance of modern atheism and how Lucifer rears his ugly head. The irony of this statement is that in Abrahamic texts, Lucifer wasn't ugly at all. Quite opposite. Written to be good-looking / handsome and intelligent, Lucifer was an angel who was cast out of heaven for turning against God and questioning God's wisdom. This is a well-known story about how even intelligence can be corrosive to people who lack wisdom and serve to feed egos. In 2003, there was a group or movement formed. I would probably say it's closer to secularism than atheism. The members of this movement promote naturalism and the opposition of supernatural doctrines in public policies. Basically, leave God in the church where he belongs. We're talking about serious stuff, is basically what they say.
Wait, sorry. What's the difference between secularism and atheism? So atheism you don't believe, and secularism you don't care.
you know what? That's a good way of putting it. I think secularism, they literally like leave God out of this. Whether you believe it or not, leave him out of this. This is law, this is public policy, this is that. Atheism is, I don't believe in God for these reasons. I personally don't believe. Secularism, you might not. You might literally just be like, I don't care.
So secularism doesn't really make any sense to you, does it?
Secularism is more functional. Atheism is more philosophical, I would say.
Okay.
So secularism and secular atheism is more to do with God as well. Secularism is, I don't believe in God the same way I don't believe in the Easter Bunny. I ain't seen it. I don't know about it.
That's what atheism was.
Atheism say that because that's a secularist point of view, but do you see what I'm saying?
It's getting techie.
It is getting techie. Wibbly wobbly time, you know what I mean? So in 2003 there was a group or movement formed that is closer to secularism than atheism. The members of this movement promote naturalism and the opposition of supernatural doctrines in public policies. Oh, and what do these members call themselves? Brights. Call themselves Brights. I said that is such an arrogant term. So everyone does this dim. Yeah. So what you're trying to say? Yeah. It's just such an arrogant way of calling yourself. We refer to ourselves as the Brights. Religious people being regarded with scorn is hardly new. People have been doing it for years and years, but the continued dilution of Christianity provides the framework for this to occur. I personally think it's frustrating sometimes talking to atheists, because I've had discussions with atheists online, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Reddit. I've had discussions with them all kinds of places. And it is super frustrating sometimes because of the arrogance when you don't know any more than I do. Let's be honest. Let's be honest now. You can't prove what you're saying, I can't prove what I'm saying, but you look down on me. Do you know what I mean? It can be a little bit frustrating. But as D'Souza said, their attitude is vindicated by, science. Because we all need science, we're sick, we need medicine. And it's like religious people, like they said, even if you're praying, but after you take the medicine. That's what he said. Yeah. So it's like, it's vindicated in a way, but it is frustrating.
In ancient Greece and Rome, women had a very low status. And you can still see the same in this day and age, notably in Muslim culture. I mean, you can see it all around the world in places that are not influenced by Christianity. Women have a lower status and importance than men. Aristotle expressed the idea that reason finds its true representation in man. He goes on to say, reason is present in children, but undeveloped. And lastly, he says, reason is present in woman, but is unused.
Oh, damn.
Which is hilarious because even thousands of years ago, women were just as irrational and, would even give a super smart philosopher a headache.
Yeah, so these people guys like you and me think about life,
they've got the answer to everything, they still can't handle it.
100%.
They still can't handle it.
They still don't know. Oh, that's deep. That is deep.
So we don't stand a chance.
We really don't stand a chance.
But I want to make it clear
the Greeks and Romans might have been onto something.
I want to make it clear that I'm quoting Aristotle because we seem to think that the reason we have certain civilized values is because of ancient Romans and Greeks. But this is not the case. It was Christianity that civilized the ancient Romans and Greeks. So Christianity destroyed lots of double standards, including the perceived intelligence gap between men and women and the seriousness of infidelity by men. Before Christianity, men were not reprimanded for their infidelity. It was seen as a man's right or natural behaviour. Even in Islam, a man can have multiple wives. So any sort of moral horror you have or you feel about these topics is because of Christianity, because it influences you.
Literally, the Romans had something called prima nocta. In French, they'd call it droit de seigneur. Literally, the right of the Lord. That's what it means. So basically, if you're the Lord, you get the right, literally, the legal right to take the virginity of any maiden in your land on her wedding night. Before her husband. That's what it's called, literally, what? Prima nocta. So in Latin, that's what the Romans used to have.
How do you get that position? I'm asking for a friend.
It's great. Not for me. Literally, asking for research.
Swear down. I wish a man would.
Listen, we know Caligula was on. Caligula was on.
Man would.
Do you know what I mean? We're all dying tonight.
You're crazy.
Joker. So wait outside the bedroom.
Crazy.
That's insane.
That's mad though. I never heard about that.
Yeah, no, prima nocta. I think it's Latin for first right?
dibs.
First dibs. And obviously, droit de seigneur is right of the Lord.
Bloody hell.
Crazy, isn't it? And then obviously,
man said your father and next man's child.
Do you know what I mean? Magna Carta.
Man goes in, you can't feel nothing after.
Like I said, sausage up an alleyway, right? Throwing the sausage up an alleyway.
Nothing after
bucket.
that, man.
You rub one out in a bucket.
Damaged goods.
Literally, she's limping downstairs,
Oh, dear.
The author said it is ridiculous to try to use the laws of physics to explain the Big Bang. It was the Big Bang that created the laws of physics. It's the other way round. Loads of people think it is this way, it's that way. Do you know what I mean? There was time before the Big Bang. Time was created with the Big Bang, and it's kind of it is complicated to get your head around. But it's when we think about forces that we can't see, I think the buck really stops at gravity. The buck stops at gravity. After that, forces that we can't see, time, things like that. We really have no. Yeah. We can't even visualize
gravity. We've got an idea
because we can think gravity, but with time we can't think anything because the time it's taken me to finish my sentence, those moments are gone. We can never access them again. So it's like we can't even think. What is it like? What does it mean to be outside of time or beyond time or before time?
And we the way we assume it is that there's still. So if we assume that. This is our galaxy or universe, but outside of it, there's some form of time. There's a different time out
time
there.
Bubble or whatever.
Yeah, and we just think they have
really don't know.
Yeah,
and this, strangely, in a strange way, it links right back to how emotions are made, that book that we did, because everything we know is concepts, exactly. And we have no concept of time, so we can't even picture it. We can't even envision it. We've never seen it. We don't know anything about it. When people try and say, there's a thing that people say about God when it's like, if you ask God to sit down and stand up at the same time, would he be able to do it? And if he can't do it, he's not omnipotent. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, if God is all-knowing, he can't, or all-powerful, he can't be all good. And if he's all good, he can't be all-powerful. Because does he know, can God sin, for example? Things like that.
Alright, I'm going to skip to one then, because there was one I wanted to ask.
Is that is relative to this?
Alright. God can be good, but he cannot be great. If greatness is defined by limitation, for example, Usain Bolt is great because he can run on the limit of how fast humans can run.
Yeah.
If greatness is defined by limitation, can God be great? If God has no limitation, can he be great?
That's the greatest. God's the greatest.
Yeah, but
that's it. That's the end. He's the greatest.
But the greatest,
Alpha and Omega.
But a great is defined by limitation.
Said who?
That's what it is.
No. It's defined by breaching limitations.
Well, breaching
what people think are limitations.
Exactly.
Anyways.
So that's not breaching limitations.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's defined by limitations. If you have no limits, think about it. Has anyone in the history of the human race been applauded, or should I say, praised for having two hands?
Because anybody,
it's just normal.
Right, but has anybody been God? No. So they're not. It's not the same. It's not the same.
Okay, so this is your strategy to
answer the question. Of course.
Get one.
Listen, I don't have the answers. That's why I'm swaying. I ain't got the answers.
I ain't got the answers.
So I remember I used to watch these videos where they used to not take the mick out of God, but they used to critically analyze how God might exist. Do you remember them videos?
It was on YouTube or something.
Yeah, it was on YouTube. And
unlocked the memory.
There was one guy. Yeah, there was one guy, and God had this assistant called Jeffrey that used to question him and bad him up sometimes. And God used to be stop talking too much. And it was satire basically. But there was one guy. He was blasphemous. One guy in the comments. He literally said some things are beyond your understanding, and that's the answer.
Yeah.
Some things just beyond your understanding.
Lots of things are beyond your understanding.
Depending on who you are. But I even said. I saw this guy on Facebook. He said, listen, we can't take off from this planet and land on the planet next to us. We don't know anything about anything. I said, that's such a good point. We don't know anything about anything. We're trying to explain the deepest mysteries of the universe. We can't even leave the planet.
Listen, we can't even go down into the depths of the ocean
without
killing ourselves.
Yeah, no, legit.
What was it? Titus. Was it Titan? What was it?
No, it was I can't remember that submarine.
Yeah, submarine. You can't even go explore our own water, much less anything else. Ridiculous. We don't even know. Yeah. Ridiculous. Did you know Christians built the first hospitals and they opened them to everybody no matter your faith? That's why lots of hospitals, That's why lots of hospitals have Christian names. St. Thomas's Hospital, St. John's Hospital, St. Bartholomew. Also, the Salvation Army and the Red Cross was due to Christians.
Yep.
Christianity influences your life every single day, and you have the cheek, the audacity to say you don't believe. Yeah, you don't say that when you pull up to the hospital, though.
Yeah, no, you believe in the doctors.
I didn't actually know that about the hospitals, but when he said that, it kind of clicked the sort of thing. But
Red Cross.
Did you know that? Then? Did you know all of that?
I don't. Nah, I'm just gonna go with no because nice. a lot of these things we don't think about. You know why? Because we have the luxury to not think about it. We are privileged enough to not have to think, it is what it is. I just go to hospital, just get some drugs or whatever. We don't think about it.
It's funny because I had a conversation with someone, a woman, and she was obviously irrational and argued with me the whole way. And she said, I've got to take my child to the hospital.
Well, she argued with what she felt like you were saying rather than what you said.
Yeah, I said, that's a privilege that you can take your child to the hospital. It's a privilege. She said, it's not a privilege. Why would I want to take my child to, them being sick? I said, whoa. It's a privilege, Your child's sick, but it's a privilege to be able to take them to hospital. So you should be happy that you can take them to hospital.
Listen, sickness is forever. Hospitals are not forever. Do you know what I mean? Hospitals are not eternal, but sickness is eternal. So a child being sick, that's going to happen sooner or later. But if you ain't got access to hospital, then you ain't got it.
So, but that was the last time I decided to debate with a woman about
You locked it off after that.
Yeah.
Did you know Islam grows mainly through reproduction? Muslim families tend to have many children. Christianity spreads through rapid conversion and it's taken a massive hold specifically in Central and South America. Notably, there is very little influence of Islam in the US, Canada, South America and Australia. That is super interesting. Christianity is, I think aggressive might be a poor choice of words.
No, but he was quite biased anyway. He was a devout Christian though. This is him. Christianity, it's through rapid conversion.
He said we're winning. He's talking with pride.
Well, he can't.
Then he said,
No, but that means we're gonna get outnumbered sooner or later. Because if the Muslims, we were brought up Muslim, if the Muslims keep multiplying like rats, no joking. You had to get that's what Winston Churchill said, isn't it?
Yeah.
If the Muslims still keep multiplying, they're gonna outnumber us.
They're getting organised.
So them Christians better start pumping out some kids.
Taking it seriously. Yeah, it is interesting though because it's like that is true. You mostly see this is why you see Muslims in the countries where they are, but I think they spread through reproduction because they have a hold of the countries that they're in. Islamic countries, they have a hold on that country, whereas Christians, they do not have a hold on the countries where they're predominant.
But what's that got to do with anything? Because
it's going to be people, they're getting together with people who aren't Christians. Do you know what I mean? So there's going to be, first of all, whether they even have children or not is now in dispute. Whether their children grow up Christian, if you marry someone who's not Christian, whereas Muslims are marrying Muslims and making Muslims. Do you know what I mean? Because everything here is Muslim. Because if you're in an Islamic country, listen, Adhan's on, we've got to go to, Zuhr prayer or whatever. Yeah. So it's incompatible with, if you're not about that, you can't just be like, nah. So you see what I'm saying? So I think because they have a hold on the countries where they're in, everything is just, flows naturally. Whereas in Christian countries, we live in a Christian country, America's a Christian country, and it's like, they're trying to, theological
I think it's
liberalism.
quite interesting that nowhere, and maybe if you go to Rio or South America where they are quite, well, they wear their crosses. I don't know.
They wear their crosses.
But it seems like there aren't any devout Christian countries, whereas you get devout Muslim countries. But I don't know. At the same time, we do close on Sundays. Which is quite annoying.
That is fairly annoying. That is the post office. I tried to go to the... that's what I was supposed to go to there.
You can't, if you have a 9-to-5 job, you are not getting... You've got to take the day off just to go to the post office.
100%. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
You don't...
Do you know what? The post office on Saturday, you know what the opening hours... It's 12. It's like 12 to 2. You're taking what would you doing for that 2 hours? Literally. By the time you open, you're closing.
A joke.
Ridiculous.
I wouldn't turn up to that. If that was my shift, I wouldn't come.
No, I'd quit. Why is it so evident... Is it?
Yeah.
What did I just say? Go on.
It's my turn.
I got one left anyways.
Oh, really?
This is the best one. It's my favourite.
What about the other ones?
Yeah, I said... actually, no, I haven't.
Yeah, I knew you couldn't have.
Oh, yeah, I was supposed to say them both at the same time. I forgot.
No, well, don't do that. Yeah. All right, my turn anyway. Why is killing civilians in war wrong? You guessed it. It's because of Christianity. The ancient Athenians would sack a city, round up all the men, kill every last one of them. They'd sell the children into slavery, and the women, they enjoyed them. Mm-hmm. Why are you licking your lips? But the Athenians believed the strong do what they have the power to do, and the weak accept what they accept. So, you know, that's what they believe. Can you imagine these Athenian man saying, wait, hold on, what do you mean I can't murder? See,
Yeah, no, 100%.
who's this Jesus man?
Yeah,
no wonder what they want to string him up.
Yeah, no.
Come round here talking,
That's what I'm saying.
That righteous
Yeah,
shit.
no, 100%. Listen, we're
Man
not
said,
about
take
that.
the water, left the
Yeah,
what?
we're not about that. We're not about that, 100%.
But yeah, it was Christians who first said, even in war, you should not be killing civilians, and war in and of itself should be fought defensively. War should be a last resort when all other measures are exhausted. For does the Bible not say, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Secondly, Christian values are the reason why we believe justice should be a measured response. If somebody robs your tribe and kills 10 people, you can't go and kill 10,000 of them.
Yeah, no, come
The
on.
reason why, if you agree with that, it's because you are influenced by Christianity. Which is crazy. It's what we believe, you know. If we
Yeah.
lived in them ancient civilizations, they killed
We'll
10 of
never
us, we're going to
survive.
kill the whole of them.
One of them one time, dead off.
Take them all.
Dead off.
So yeah, that's how they used to react back then. And they will believe they were doing the right thing. Well, you killed one
There
of
was
them.
no-
Life is priceless, right?
Life is precious,
Life is
literally.
precious and
Eye for an
priceless. So, you know, you know, well, yes.
There's a crazy amount of concepts and things that we live by and words that we say that just come from Christianity that we don't spare a thought for Christianity because of them. Like even I just said eye for an eye, where's that from? Do you know what I mean? Like Good Samaritan, where's that from? So it is just really incredible how influential Christianity is in the Western world, in the modern world. And we never spare a thought for it. Why is it so evident to atheists that their way is the way? What vindicates their position? D'Souza claims that it's science, of course. Science gives us computers and airplanes and medicine that can kill bacteria. Even the most pious of religious people, most fundamental Christians need medicine when they are sick. And it's this what vindicates those who say that there is no God. What I find interesting, however, is why we see religious teachings and scientific teachings as perpetual antonyms. That is to say, why do we look at science and God as opposites when there is evidence to the contrary? For example, one of the oldest books in the Bible, some say it's the outright oldest. It's actually not the book of Genesis. Because the Bible is not chronological. So there's old bits in the middle and the new bits at the beginning. It's not even Genesis. Some say it's Genesis, some say it's the book of Job. Carbon dating puts it up to nearly 3,000 years old. In the book of Job, in chapter 26, verse 8, it says, he wraps up the water in his clouds, yet they do not burst under his weight. In a later verse, it says, he draws up the drops of water, which distill as rain to the streams. The clouds pour down their moisture and abundant showers fall on mankind. This is some shepherd from 3 millenniums ago explaining evaporation, precipitation, and condensation. He's a shepherd. He knows nothing about anything. You can't see the water going up into the clouds. So how does he know this? In a later verse in the book, it says, the earth from which the food comes is transformed below as by fire. The molten metal nearly 3,000 feet deep beneath the earth's crust. Am I missing something? How does a shepherd know what lava is or molten magma or anything like that? It's crazy. These things are here in the Bible. It's not, locked up knowledge. It's here. You can Google it. And I've never even seen this in the Bible. I said, how does he know these scientific processes? They was figuring this out hundreds and hundreds of years later. How does he know any of this? He's a shepherd.
God told him.
God told him.
That's
God
right.
told him. It's the word of God.
Yeah.
It's the word of God. This is super insane to me because, like I said, this knowledge is not gate kept. No one's locked this up. It's not illegal knowledge. It's out there.
And it's funny that it seems like our notes just link up, because you started talking about science now. And what I have to say is, many of the first scientists were Christian. There was a man named Georges Lamanthe. I probably butchered his name. But he's the one that came up with the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory. He was Christian. Scientists are not opposing religious people. They are religious people. Religion is not against scientists, and it never was. It's a misconception that has been debunked. The religious scientists believe that God created the world, which is the hardware, and he designed the software of evolution. In other words, God is behind it all. The reason why people believe science is opposing religion is because science is about proving or disproving facts or theories. And we wouldn't want a scientist investigating something for them to run into something difficult and then turn around and say, yeah, that's because miracle, we want scientists to come up with a problem, something that they can recreate, something that can, that they can prove. So that's why we believe or we think scientists are against religion. But from all the studies that they've shown, they look at the stars, they look at the galaxy, and they look at things, and it all points to some form of creator because there's order in the universe.
100%. And in fact, there is even a scientific school of thought, let's say, where they don't believe that anything, like, for a ball to be rolling, something pushed it. Is basically the school of thought. So they're thinking, for us to be here in this house, somebody had to build this house. For this house to be built, this street had to be cleared of. Do you see what I'm saying? Follow that back, you get to God, basically. One way or the other. And then people will say, but if God created everything, who created God? Whoever it was, that's God. So you just follow it and you get to God. And it's impossible to not. Do you know what I mean? Because it started somewhere. And whoever it started with, that's God. But you have to remember scientific laws of nature. I mean, scientific laws are not laws of nature. Do you know what I mean? They're not laws of nature. They're just scientists. They run experiments. They back up their own theories. And then they're right until they're wrong, basically. Yeah, exactly. So 100 years ago, 200 years ago, 500 years ago, whatever, they knew humans could never fly. They said, this is unnatural for us to fly. If God wanted us to fly, we'd have wings or whatever. Now we fly everywhere. You know, it's impossible to talk to somebody unless they're in the same room as you. That's crazy. Witchcraft. Now, what do we have? Phones. Exactly. So things are right until they're wrong. And that's pretty much how science works. And one day it will be wrong about God, if it isn't already.
Definitely. Yeah. Is that you?
Yeah.
One, look on.
Yeah, I saw you sent me one. Did you finish already?
I've got one more.
Okay, do you want to do this one first?
I'll do mine. Right. Science is incapable of understanding nature or purpose of reality. Let me give you an example. You ask a scientist, why is that water boiling? He will tell you about the molecules and how they react. But what he won't tell you is the water's boiling because I want a cup of tea. There's a whole other dimension that cannot be accessed through science. So to look for God in that restrictive dimension is futile. Science is more of a study of how does it behave. Science is like a tape recorder. Imagine you were a tape recorder. You can't move and you would experience the world by hearing it. But that's all you would think is there, sound. For some reason, atheists assume that their senses give them full access to external reality, which is just incorrect.
We know it's incorrect. And the funny thing is, science proves that that's incorrect as well. It's not even like a theory or like us guessing. Science literally proves that it's incorrect.
Your senses, as we've said many times before, your senses trick you every moment of your life.
They need to.
And we know that our senses trick us. For example, you ever heard yourself or heard your voice on a recording, an audio recording, and then you go, that's not my voice.
Do you know what's funny? I was talking about this yesterday.
So your senses, your ears trick you, your eyes trick you. You see the sun setting, the sun doesn't move. Your eyes trick you. Everything tricks you, and you think you can tap into the reality that's around us. You're crazy. You're not even crazy. You're stupid.
Yeah, literally, it's worse. You're ignorant. You're ignorant, as they used to say. I think it's super crazy that we know so little about the universe, and yet we try to mansplain, shall we say, it to other people.
Yeah. There's no God.
Do you see what I'm saying? It's crazy because, like I literally said, you can't even get a job, and you're talking to me about the deepest mysteries of the universe. It's ridiculous. Ridiculous. You should be ashamed. You can leave. Whether you like it or not, you are religious. You live your life with faith. For example, how do I know this cereal is safe to eat? Should I take this new job? Is it a good idea to marry this woman? You don't say, I don't know, how can I be sure, when it comes to picking a wife or a friend. So if you are willing to use and exercise faith for things that are unimportant, how can you be so oblivious, so unintelligent, so dense that you refuse to consider the most important question you could possibly ask? Why are we here? What's the purpose of life? Is there a higher power? Is this life all there is? What happens when we die? What do you think happens when we die?
I'm going to come back.
You're going to come back?
I'm going to come back as a cat. If you were going to come back as an animal, that's the animal you'd be though, wouldn't it?
I think in this day and age, it makes the most sense.
You've got the best quality of life. You could say a bird.
Well, birds, what kind of quality of life are we talking about? Do you know what I mean? We don't really know. You're just thinking wings. That's what you're thinking. Yeah, you're just thinking wings.
But a cat lives like a king.
King, literally. And in ancient Egypt, they were kings.
Roll around, come home when you want to get fed. If you ain't neutered, you're terrorizing everybody.
Shooting up the club. Literally.
You know, holy for pitneys, you don't have to look after them.
You don't know where they are.
You say for them business.
Literally. Ambush said, was it Father's Day? He said,
Man, that business.
He said,
Man, I look pussy.
100%, literally. And I might pick me that.
So, yeah, but that wasn't what you asked. That was
We went off on one day. It has nothing to do with what you asked. But honestly, in all seriousness though, these are the big questions. And this is the purpose of philosophy, to think about the big questions. And it's like, I don't think people spare enough time to think about the big questions or to think about Christianity at all, even though it has such a big massive influence on our lives.
Which is just crazy. But now we know, and now you know. So do with that what you will.
Do with it what you will.
So yeah, you're welcome, guys. We taught you something, as always. But yeah, until next time.
Until next time.